Inescapably.
Escapably foreign. Welcome to Without Borders. If this is your first time tuning in, remember this is the podcast for nomads, expats, immigrants, third culture children, or anyone else that feels inescapably foreign. I'm your host, Nolan Yuma. And remember, if you are an English learner, you can access the transcript at withoutborders.fyi. We also discuss language there. And today I'm here with Silvio Ivicic. Ivicic, right?
Yeah, correctly.
All right. So Silvio, he's a cameraman at the VRT. And Silvio is my cousin's husband. So we're used to speaking in Flemish together with maybe a little bit of a mix of English. But today we're going to flip it. We're going to speak in English so that it's accessible to a wider audience. Yeah. But keep in mind that Silvio has to translate from Croatian to Dutch to English, he explained to me. That's kind of how it happens in his mind. Yeah, is that so?
Yeah, indeed. And sometimes it takes a bit longer for people to and people have to have patience sometimes with me, because indeed I try to use as much as words as I can, but sometimes it gets a bit too complicated in my head.
And as we were talking about before, we can always use a Flemish word and then describe it. For instance, gezellig is a word that you can't translate into English. How would you describe the word gezellig?
Cozy? But still, it's not only cozy. It's more like the feeling you have, like when you're happy and in cozy situation. That is gezellig. It's a feeling, like.
But like a room can be cozy, and same as a room can be gezellig, but people can also be gezellig. It's more about the people in the room.
That's why I mean, like for me, it's a word that describes a feeling that you have.
Yeah.
Something is. I feel it gezellig. I feel it cozy, I feel it comfortable, I feel relaxed, I feel happy. That is like gezellig, like this mixture of really positive feelings that you have.
And Silvio, do you have any words in Croatian that you feel like you just can't really translate into English or into Flemish?
Nothing comes directly into my mind now.
Okay. Or expressions or idioms that you really love?
Yeah, well, sometimes I say like a weird expressions like, it's like this and that, and then people look at me, what do you mean? But most of the expressions are quite universal, as I found out.
Oh, okay. Like which?
Like you say in Croatian, far from the heart, it's far from the eyes, of the other way around. Meaning like, if you don't see someone, you will probably love him less and less with time. Something like that. Do you have any? I think it's quite universal, no?
Yeah.
And in Dutch, it's also like what it's called? Yeah, something like ver van hart, ver van ogen, of.
Okay. To me, it rings a stronger bell in Flemish. I think I've heard it more in Flemish than in English.
Okay.
There's another one in Croatian, and it translates as "the cat will come to the tiny door." Now, I don't speak Croatian, so I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's something like "doće mača na vratanča."
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Indeed. I mean, did you know it? Yeah, it's like indeed a funny one, like meaning eventually the cat will come. Because it's nature of the cat. It will come to the tiny door, and some things are inevitable, like.
I think in English we translate like it will come back to haunt you.
No, that's not the same.
No? Okay. How is it different?
Yeah, it's more like it will come back to like it's more like just wait. home back to haunt you. No, it's more like just wait, and the situation that you probably expect will happen, because it's in the nature of the situation, it's in the nature of these people that they will eventually like do the thing that it's you're expected. It's more like a self-fulfilling
Fulfilling.
fulfilling
Yeah.
prophecy thing.
Is it
I
also kind
think
of like
that's
we're
more like,
doomed to repeat ourselves?
yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But it's also like something that you say when it happens, like, ha, look, told you so, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the cat. And my cat is now standing in front of my door, but it will have to wait a bit. I
Now,
see it now.
are you a cat guy or a dog guy?
Funny, I got the same question yesterday from my daughter. And I'm just an animal guy. I had cats, I had dogs, and I love them both. It's like, I don't know. It's hard for me to choose. It's like choosing your favorite child. It's impossible.
Now, Croatia's famous for Dalmatians. Would you ever get a Dalmatian?
No, and it's another like funny thing. We don't have any. We don't have a lot of Dalmatian dogs in Croatia. I don't know where the name comes from. I don't think that they even come from Croatia. Just
Oh,
got that name
I
somehow.
read something like that. I thought that they did. But maybe I'm
No, you
mistaken.
would expect that the whole coast is full of Dalmatians, but
But you've heard this as
yeah,
well, right? That people
yeah,
associate Dalmatians with
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, because it's in the name, but it doesn't have to do much with as a dog breed coming from Croatia. We have some other dog breeds like Croatian Shepherd and Croatian hunting dog, something like that. But
okay,
Dalmatians are like, maybe they come from Hollywood. I don't know. They don't come from Croatia.
okay. Here, well, Silvio, let's get a little bit into your story. So you work for in English we say VRT, which sounds really weird for me to say.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
VRT. Um,
VRT.
I
That
know.
is the Flemish radio and television, of vlaamse radio and televisie.
Yes, yes.
And yeah, it's like a national TV house, but it's more like a regional TV house because, as you know, but I don't know if everybody knows, Belgium is divided into two countries, and it has 7 parliaments, I think, seven
Okay.
governments, and this. But let's keep it to the first division. It is like you have a like Flemish part politically and a Wallonian part, and so each of these countries has its own language. That is Dutch, and the
Oh,
northern
when you
part
said 7 parliaments, you
French.
meant like the seven provinces or the 7 districts.
No, no,
Oh,
no.
what?
It will get more complicated. I just want to say, like, the Flemish
Okay.
TV is like Flemish speaking part, the northern part. That's where their viewers and listeners are, and that's the house that I work for. But to get more complicated, you have like in Belgium, you have like Flemish government, like this geographically Flemish. You have the Wallonian government, geographically Wallonian. You have the Brussels government, which is in the city of Brussels and
Ah,
around.
like this.
And then you have like these speaking groups, like the Dutch government, Dutch speaking government. You have the French francophone speaking government, and you have the Dutch speaking government, which is geographically in the Wallonian, but it's another ethnical and language group, so they have their
Hmm.
own government, and they have another government at top of everybody, the federal government. So it's number 7, I think. Did I get count correctly?
Okay,
So
so
yeah, it's not still clear to me after
now, even
13
though
years here.
VRT is a national news channel, it is geared towards the Vlaamse, the Flemings,
Yeah.
right? And when I was reading about it in English, it says like their tasks, their goals, impartial news and information, culture, education, entertainment, sports, and then the last one, Flemish identity. How would you describe Flemish
Oh man,
identity?
it's like more I don't know, a quest for their self identity indeed, trying to find the things that separate them from other people around them. But sometimes it gets really like absurd down to like choosing the national dishes. Like that is something that identifies you,
Yeah.
like meatballs in tomato sauce. It's a part of
Albondigas en
their identity.
tomatensaus.
Yeah, indeed, like yeah, balletjes in tomato sauce,
Balletjes.
like
Ook meer Antwerpse
and things like
balletjes.
that. Yeah, balletjes.
Balletjes. Yeah.
And I don't know, like it's like they have to promote Flemish identity to preserve it. Like it's some like old book that has to be preserved because the identity is changing every day, every second, and because identity is like something you have. And it's built from your interaction with your surroundings. And if your surroundings change, then I guess your identity changes. And it's absurd to keep it like some old book and it cannot be touched and it has to be shown around like, so it's really
Interesting.
not, yeah, I cannot really totally comprehend this quest for preserving the identity like something old that cannot be changed and it has to, like be saved.
At VRT VRT, do they try to preserve this idea of Flemish identity,
Well,
or
our
are they
government
exploring
thinks,
the ways it's
our
changing?
government thinks that we are not doing good enough job, but they don't give any clear directions how we have to do it because I still think it's like a mission impossible, like
Yeah.
and yeah, I find it sometimes difficult to accept and to comprehend this need to differentiate yourself from your southern neighbors or from everybody around, and pushing on that specific front instead of doing more to connect with our fellow neighbors. I mean, like we're in the same country, like, and there is none nobody is trying to connect more with our Wallonian landgenoten, people from the same land.
Landgenoten, countrymen.
Countrymen, like it's, in schools they start learning French only in 5th grade. I find it absurd, like in Croatia we started learning English in my 3rd or 4th grade. It's like country that is thousands of miles away and they are like postponing it so long, and I find it really funny. And when you started talking about the VRT, like before it was like BRT, Belgian radio television, and when it's built, it was like built like one huge building. And they had a
Really? I didn't
corridor.
know that. So it used to be called BRT.
BRT, yeah, and it was one. It is still one building, one big building.
Yeah.
There's the corridor in the middle. It's like the border. Left side is like the Flemish TV, and the right side is the RTBF now, Francophone television. And so we work together, but there is like zero connection, zero communication, and zero, interaction.
Now,
It's
I
so
don't know enough
absurd.
about this, but this doesn't sound good to
And I
me.
come in and I walk down the corridor. I go to my right side. I've never been to the left side of the building. Like I don't have. It's absurd, And you would think like in both of the like on both of the, everybody has like 3 TV stations, 3 TV channels or 2, and you would expect that there is some like exchange of shows between those programs. Like, look, our neighbors are doing, look, this is us. Or like make some shows when the people from both sides like takes something together. Nothing.
Yeah, I don't know about that. And
It's
I also
weird.
find it interesting because when you look at these tasks or these goals from the VRT, and then they say, we want to preserve Flemish identity, but then also have impartial news. how do you have impartial news while preserving an old identity? Is there a way to do that, or do you think those kind of conflict in a way?
Oh, I didn't see that. Uh, I don't think it's conflicting that much, but it's still
Okay.
like yeah, it's like missing a part of it. Okay, of course, if something like big happens
Hmm.
in the Wallonian Park, they will report about it, and if something happens in Brussels, which is again like an island island
Highland?
in island in this in the Flemish part. Uh, in Brussels is like a multi-language. People speak French, Dutch, and I guess all the other languages of the world in the same city
Yeah.
because it's a European capital as well. When things happen there, they report, but of course the politicians mostly come on Flemish TV, the Flemish politicians, and they have to say something about uh, um, situation in the Flemish part. Again, like you have like this double life here.
Yeah.
You have like Flemish politicians which only act in Flemish parliament, and you have like the Flemish politicians that work in federal parliament. Sometimes it's like totally opposite governments. You know, like you have like right-wing government in one part and a left-wing government in
Hmm.
another part.
Now, to touch on
It's more
that,
like that.
someone told me something well, what I found it interesting about Belgian identity and also just Flemish identity, and then we expanded on European identity. So me, I haven't been in Belgium for a long time. I haven't lived there
Too
since I was a
long.
child, so I don't really think I have a right to talk about politics in a very specific way.
Mm-hmm.
But when someone tells me that they feel very Flemish, right, and they support Vlaanderen, then I always associate that with a little bit more of a right-wing government and maybe even more of like a separatist feeling. Like when someone tells me they're
Yeah,
very Flemish,
totally. Yeah,
I kind
yeah.
of immediately have this association, okay, maybe you don't care as much about different cultures. But what's interesting about this is that um, I was talking to someone and I asked, do you feel Belgian? And he said, no, I feel more Flemish. And then I thought, oi, he's one of those. But
Mm-hmm.
then he mentioned, to be honest, actually, I feel European. And then I was like, ah, that's interesting. And it was the first time that I heard someone have a separatist view, but more in a European sense. Like his opinion was that instead of having Belgium or instead of having Spain, it should all be broken up into the little segments, but as a European whole, almost like the United States, right? The United Europe.
Yeah. I
What do you
totally
think
agree.
about that?
Well, that kind of view, yeah, has a lot of similarities with my ideas, indeed.
Okay.
Because yeah, it's indeed like this. Belgium is it's a weird construction. It's more like based on historical and political importance from around us than from the need from the people from here itself to like to form one country together because we are like brothers to each other. And again, as I'm not born here, I'm like a newcomer.
Yeah,
uh it's maybe I'm not the best person to talk about it, but I still have a feeling that it's like, yeah, it's like that here, like Belgium was made from outside. That didn't come from the need of the people here, like to have a family together.
definitely. Well, the more I
and
travel
and
around
and
Europe, it's like that everywhere in Europe, right? You really
yeah,
have it kind of stems from these old kingdoms, and they still feel
yeah, yeah,
separate.
yeah, indeed, yeah, a lot of I mean, in Croatia it's easier if you're like in a country where it's easy, where it's like all the people speak one language and the neighbors don't.
Hmm.
In such situations, it's like easier to like to draw the lines and to give them like uh, um reason to exist this country. But a lot of situations, it's indeed like you have like districts, you have regions where people from northern region don't understand really the southern fellow
Yeah.
countrymen because the dialects are so different, like impact from different cultures. In Croatia as well, like you have like this Mediterranean culture on the south, you have this northern Austrian culture on the north, you have on this east side, you have this Turk Ottomanic influences that you can see in a specific cultural influences, the gastronomic, religious influences. Like it's totally different. It's like three countries in one.
And in
But
Croatia, it's also complicated with the language because Croatian has been written in three different alphabets over time, right?
uh,
The Cyrillic and then Latin, right now.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then
And then we had even our own alphabet once in the beginnings of this of the when it was like 10th century, with the
mhm,
spreading of the new religion in these parts. Indeed,
yeah.
they even invented a special one for us. Yeah, I mean, it's also sometimes hard for me to like give the distinct explanation. Like, is Croatian a single language, or is it like because we have like Serbia next to us,
Yeah.
which is like I think like 95% similar. We have like this new
Well, I read that.
Bosniak language. It's like you know,
Well, of
ah,
course, Croatia belongs to the South Slavic language family, but I heard
yeah,
that after Croatia declared independence, that
yeah.
they tried to reform the language a bit to build its own identity.
Yeah, indeed. I remember it quite well because I was like 12, 13 then, and in school, indeed, we started getting some like new words, which like designed probably from this language purists with some
Yeah.
political agenda, and it was like, yeah, this comes from an old Croatian word, and etc., etc., etc. And like, luckily, there weren't so much new words, but there was the tendency to differentiate ourselves from our neighbors,
Do you
and
think that was a good thing, or was it kind of a,
I
well,
think it was
especially
a
at
silly
13?
silly thing. It was
Okay.
like this obvious political agenda, and so if you want, you can find enough differences in the languages that far to like pronounce like this is Croatian, this is Serbian. You don't have to invent another new words to make your statement stronger. But
Yeah.
in our case, it was also I think it's obvious for everybody. It's purely political reason to name it different languages, because in the end you have new Bosniak language, um, which is again 96, 97% the same. Sometimes you have different words, but because the words are then vocabulary is it's inspired by the cultural differences. But then in the same country, you can have like different languages. Like again, Croatian's north and south. If you look at the local dialects, it's like heaven and earth. Like should we then say northern Croatian and southern Croatian, and where do you draw the line from different languages? It's purely political decision,
Mm,
I think.
yeah.
But then again, to come back to Belgium and our identity and the Flemish identity, I'm afraid that I also have like this idea that it's that a lot of this the Flemish identity has some unlucky connections with also the times of the Second World War, and this like this slight
Mm,
sympathy for the German
Nazis.
Nazi
But
movement.
we can
Yeah,
be straight up. Yeah.
yeah. And then, but then
No one
again,
likes to be called a Nazi, but sometimes if you're on that very
yeah,
right-wing side and you're on that separatist side and
yeah. There is this like this connection like still lives in the heads of people from, but I don't know. Indeed, but if I take the example that you said, like in Spain as well, and I have friends in Catalonia, there this the separate movement is totally or mostly like left wing, isn't it?
Yeah, in a way, because how Catalan kind of came right after Franco and everything. But what seems to be a similar connection to in Belgium and in Spain, especially when with Catalonia, is that they make more money, right? So there's always that economic argument, like why should our tax dollars go to this area when we make more money? And I think
Well,
there is a connection, even though one is more right and one is more left. I think that's where the
yeah,
similarity
yeah,
is. And
yeah,
I
indeed,
have a question for you about that too. What do you think? Back to the idea of a united Europe, right? Where you have these, instead of these countries, you have these different states or provinces or whatever you want to call it. Um, do you think this would be beneficial for the poorer areas, or do you think it would just end up in the same arguments again? Like Europe, the entire Europe, then being like, oh, why do we have to pay taxes to help these poorer areas?
indeed, indeed, indeed. And yeah, if you take this method of indeed like helping each other, so we eventually achieve the same level of richness, then it will be indeed like a zero equation. Like, okay, you will drop some political constructions and build another ones, and it will be the same methods, like taking money from where is like a little bit more cream and giving it to the less successful. Yeah,
Yeah. Which
you know,
people like you and I think we're both okay with that, right? Like,
yeah,
I
I'm
don't
okay,
mind my
indeed.
taxes going to help other people, but there
Yeah,
will always be that group of people who
yeah,
don't agree with that,
yeah,
right?
indeed, 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 indeed. And the same story here in Belgium. Like now, they say of, I don't know exact figures, but like this, there is more economical. There are more economical issues and problems in the southern part than in the Flemish northern part. The Flemish part is now really enjoying its benefits of its position as the one of the gates of Europe.
Hmm.
Antwerp harbor, Antwerp harbor port, and the now like some other they're in Newport. They are becoming really like the third or the second largest uh, gateway to Europe. And whole the economy was like the last 15 years shifting from industry or something into this more service industry, and there's the where the money is now, and
Yeah.
innovation, etc. At the same time, Wallonian part was really like in the um, century ago, was like one of the richest countries of the world, because they
Hmm.
had one of the first good train connection network. They had a lot of coal and iron, and the industrialization level was absurdly high. And there
Hmm.
was so much money, like it was so much wealth. And then the Flemish people were like immigrants to this southern part, and the whole part, like there's so you can hear it, and you can see it in the last names of people who still live in the Wallonian part. It's like typical Dutch names, or it's like Frenchalized Dutch names.
Yeah.
And now they're like, I think it's a bit hypocrite. Now they are looking, all our money is going to the Wallonian parts, and all the immigrants and this and that are they're taking our jobs and stuff. You don't have to go far. You just have to go like maybe 100 years back, and you will see that there was a huge immigration to just to the south of the borders, and they also use this example sometimes in workshops about what's the word,
You can say it in
what,
Flemish too. If
yeah, I cannot come to it either. um this what's the name? when they have workshops about effects of discrimination. Ah,
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
discrimination and xenophobia in our maatschappij,
Maatschappij
society.
society.
Yeah, and then they use the examples and the titles from the newspapers and the things that people said, and they are asking you like connect that to a certain ethnic group now, and people really like think, okay, the loud and drinking, okay, that's the Polish people. Taking fights and being aggressive, that's like, I don't know, Maghrebian or this and that, and then you will see that all these quotes and all these things that are said were just things that people in Wallonia said about the Flemish people.
Yeah.
You know, about it was like their perception of these newcomers, of these like these strange foreign people,
Hmm.
and it didn't change at all, huh?
Yeah. Silvio,
Boy.
so I agree with you completely. But how was it for you, Silvio, when you first came to Belgium?
Uh, it was interesting. It was exciting. It was all new and cool. uh, I didn't come just as a tourist, you know, like without any purpose. I came to Belgium for my girlfriend then, now my wife.
That's my cousin, by the way, if you didn't tune
Yeah,
into
it's your
episode
cousin
one.
Lisa Janssens. Apparently, is Janssens really the most common Flemish name there is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I guess the whole feeling and the whole picture of coming to Belgium was more like in a pink cloud for me, being in love and everything. So everything was fabulous and beautiful, and I was just like floating around like high. So it was quite a
And
positive
Silvio,
experience.
I forgot when you came to Belgium because I know Croatia became part of the European Union in 2013, right? July 1st,
Something
2013.
like that, yeah.
Did you come before that or after?
Before I came here,
Okay.
I think autumn 2007. Yeah. And it was like, yeah, after summer together again in Holland and in Croatia and everywhere. Uh, I um I was without work then. Lisa has finished her studies. She graduated and everything. She was living with me a year before that in Croatia because she did her final thesis there from her studies, and then she graduated, had the difficulty to find a satisfying job in Croatia because she didn't know Croatian, and they don't need so much anthropologists there. And yeah, I thought like, yeah, I'll go and check it out here, see how it's
But
like
since
here,
you
and then
came
I stayed.
before Croatia was part of the European Union, was it difficult bureaucratically for you? Or
Yeah, actually it was. Actually it was. I was like pretty naive and thought like, yeah, you know, like uh, I'll I don't have any how to say, uh, yeah, I don't have any bad intentions. uh, I don't want to use of abuse any financial measures that they have in Belgium. I'll just go and check it out here. Maybe work, maybe not. But you have to have this built case to come to Belgium to get any rights and possibilities to work. And our idea was like, okay, we are together now already a few years. We will make a map and we will make a file with all these proofs that we are together.
Mhm.
And I filed it through Croatian embassy to the Belgium embassy, to the Belgium headquarters here, and it was I think it wasn't accepted, our plea.
It wasn't
Uh,
accepted.
no, and eventually they lost my file,
Classic
and I
bureaucracy. It's
really
still, oh,
really like angry and pissed a bit because come on, like I gave them all my personal souvenirs and memories, like handwritten postcards and everything, like our first letters to
oh
each
my
other,
God.
like things like that, and just like lost it.
There's
It
nothing
was,
that gets me angrier lately is hearing these
yeah,
stories about immigration and these bureaucrats that hold your life. They literally hold your life in their
yeah,
hands with
yeah,
this piece of
yeah,
paper, right? And
yeah. Something's it cannot get more personal than giving parts of your like history to them, and they just see it as a file, as a number, as a piece of paper. Nobody can. I mean, how can you lose it? Anyway, and then like this lady said, like, yeah, yeah, I don't see any other. Maybe the easiest measure is, instead of making another file and making again like this case, maybe the fastest ways would be just like to get married. And
Mhm,
then I said first, like, no, screw you. I want, like, I won't do something so personal and emotional, just like to skip some bureaucratic obstacle.
mhm,
But then when this question came on the table, like marrying, when do you marry someone? When you love it, when you love this person, and when you cannot really imagine the rest of your life without this person. And when I, like, clicked all these buttons, and said, okay, I mean, I'm a perfect candidate to get married,
yeah.
pure out of love. And then it went pretty quickly. We could get a date even like in a few weeks. Then it really went a bit too fast, and I was like a bit freaking. Shit! I'm getting married, and nobody knows it yet, and then I have sent like some more like postcards to my friends. Yeah, like I'm getting married. Surprise! And then they surprised me by coming to Belgium on the day of this of the marriage in this local district house.
Town hall, right?
Town hall, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
District house. Town hall. And this simple bureaucratic step was really one of the most emotional moments of my life. When I
Wow.
saw my friends there, like, surprising me on the door, and this and the looks in their faces, and the look in the eyes of my mother was holding back her tears, and me as well. And I don't remember anything that the lady said in this town hall because I was really like in a bubble. I was looking at Lisa and holding her hand, and like uh, experiencing like the hugeness of this step that I'm making, and I was also totally 100% sure that this is what I want, at least what
Yeah.
my heart wants. And so we got married. It was beautiful. We made another party in Croatia on one of the beautiful islands there. We brought our friends from Belgium, brought friends from Croatia. It was a perfect international mixing event. 3 days of partying. And when I came back to Belgium, I didn't have any problems at all. And they didn't even come to check up on us, which is something
Love solved the bureaucracy.
yeah, love has beaten bureaucracy indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, love.
But
That's a better way to put it. Love beat bureaucracy.
yeah, luckily.
Uh,
I did felt a bit like positively discriminated in this case, because as again, and I heard of stories from fellow New Belgians. They did have checkups, and they did have to prove their the healthy relationship afterwards with the checkups and the police people coming to their homes and like
mhm.
checking, yeah, if they really live together and things like that. Nobody visited us and asked about us ever again.
Okay. Now, about the discrimination, I think inherently bureaucracy almost is systematically racist if you look at it.
Yeah,
And yeah,
unfortunately, yeah.
unfortunately, and it needs to change. But did you experience any other sort of discrimination outside of the bureaucratic world in Belgium? Um,
Discrimination like having obstacles to reach certain things.
yeah,
No,
no, okay,
I didn't. But
okay.
again, I don't see it like that it doesn't exist here. I just like have to thank that to my European origin and my blue eyes, and like, yeah, I have to
That's the
admit that
interesting
it has
thing. Like
something to do.
here in Spain, like Romanians, well, in Belgium too, Romanians will also experience racism, and they're white. Some of them have blue eyes as well, but I guess
Okay,
it's
indeed,
right.
indeed.
But I guess it's different for Croatians, or what do you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, because I don't have much connections with Croats here, but I've never heard any of them complaining like about being discriminated.
Okay.
And I don't know, but at the same time, yeah, I have some friends from other nationalities and other skin color, so to say, and they get
Hmm.
a different treatment, and
Hmm.
sad to hear it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't have much problems either with learning Dutch. It helped a lot,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that is also one of the important issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the benefit of now being part of the EU or European Union. Um, Now, your family back in Croatia, have they experienced any changes since Croatia became part of the EU? Like, have you seen a lot of development or just a lot of cultural changes or anything? Or no, you're
No,
shaking your head, nada.
no, not at all, not at all. There was a
Okay.
certain like moment of like things will get better,
Yeah.
because they had to clean up some stuff, some mess before they were really getting when they were still on the how do you call it, orange light and the traffic
Hmm.
lights before entering the European Union. They had to clean up some mess. They get to get some things into order, but once the date came, like, okay, now we are EU, and hoping that things will stay getting better.
Yeah.
No, it just like flattened out, and
Really.
apparently they didn't really get the lesson through. And
And
now they will.
the
Sorry, I just
tourism
wanted to
sector
say,
didn't
yeah.
the tourism sector didn't grow at all because I know that I think it's like 16% of the economy of Croatia is from tourism. Like it's definitely one of the strong pillars. Did that expand or
Uh, it still is. It's still. I don't know exactly figures, but I know that we are after Malta. I think it's the
okay.
city. It is the country with the biggest percentage of the tourism in the national GP.
Okay.
Saying like if something happens in the geopolitical situation and the tourists stop coming, then you're like uh, deep in problems, and that is still like that, and they are still like mostly they're, yeah, heavily dependent on tourism, and then all the investments go into that directions, like getting still fixing the roads and making billion-dollar bridges and things like
Hmm.
that, so the tourists can go more easily from one side to the other.
Now,
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to diversify,
do you have an
especially if you don't
opinion?
have any good plan.
Do you have an opinion about red tourism? Do you know what I mean when I say red tourism?
No.
So red tourism is tourism to travel when people go to old communist and former communist countries, and then they go there to experience how it could have been back then, usually the old remains. And apparently it's quite
Yeah.
popular in Croatia
Yeah.
because of the
I really.
spomenics. Is that spomenics?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, spomenik. Yeah, the monuments, huh?
yeah, like they
Yeah,
look
it's
like
like
they're made
really
by
something.
aliens, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I was really indeed like wondering what's going on with that, and I'm happy actually to get a second life because it's like this really specific, weird, totally weird thing about these communist countries, like building huge monuments in the middle of nowhere,
Hmm.
sometimes on the top of the mountain, sometimes in the middle of the forests,
Yeah.
and then without any other facilities around. And then we went like the school kids on school excursions
Yeah.
to this middle of nowhere place with a bus. We would sit there like eating our sandwiches, play around a bit, and go home. And it was its only purpose. And then after this series of independent things, it fell into oblivions, like,
Mm.
and it was also often a bit destroyed and but it stays a really cool phenomenon. Like a lot of this, it's a huge buildings.
Yeah.
It's a
Well, how does it
huge
feel for you
flower
when you
in the
saw them?
middle
Because
of
I know
nowhere.
they're a symbol of a united Yugoslavia, right? So
Yeah, it's
how
like
does
the
it
symbol
feel when
of
you see
this.
them?
Yeah, it were always the symbols of this war. I mean, like this dependent movement, like not movement, like the symbol of the fight against the foreign occupators, mostly
Mm.
Nazi Germany. And yeah, it was always like here happened something. I know some of big battles happened there, and then they posted a monument there. And when we came there, it was like remembering the foundations of our nation, which is like we worked together against the foreign occupator, and that's like Yugoslavia was Yugoslavia, something like that.
Okay.
But I haven't been to much of those, and I'm planning to take part in this red tourism
Okay.
and visit some parts. My cousin went. My Croatian cousin went there a couple of months ago, and her boyfriend, a photographer, made some fantastic photographs there. It's really like some alien spaceship stranded there somewhere in the middle of
I
the
know it's like a
forest.
recipe for conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And one of my favorite islands in Croatia, where I also had my wedding party, is island Vis, um, which was like until the 90s closed for foreigners and for most of the visitors because it was one huge military base. And there they had huge caserna, how do you call it?
Guess
Like caserna, like where the
I don't know.
military
Like a military
stays and
base?
lives, military bases
Okay.
dug into they were dug into a hill, which huge long corridors and like sleeping quarters, kitchens, depot holes, like kilometers of corridors through solid rock
Yeah.
mountains with garages for the submarines and for these destroyers. It's still closed, more or less for the public, but I thought like that would be really like a cool card to play for the local tourism. And like,
Yeah.
there's
That'd
a
be really
huge
cool.
city inside of a mountain.
Yeah.
uh I like that. When I was on Vis, I went to do some of my own investigations, but at the same time it does have its dangers, like there was a famous story of a Dutch paraglider. You know what
Hmm.
it means, paraglider?
Yeah, 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 that's correct.
Okay. Who visited the same island shortly after the Croatia went into independence, and he tried to jump off some of the cliffs, but the cliff the part where he jumped was a little bit too close to the nearby military base area, and he stepped on a landmine and lost his leg.
Holy shit.
Couple of years into independence. So, although it's like cool and it would be really exciting to visit some of these parts, but it's still dangerous. Huh?
So there's still some dangers in this red tourism.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, especially in Croatia, because then there was like this thing of this civil war, and then the military was still pro-Serbian, and there was still a certain point there was a clash between Croats and the national army.
Mhm.
So the bases had to be also like protected with landmines around it.
Yeah.
So there is another story around that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Here, Silvio, just to bring it on a different tangent, when you were talking about your wedding party, I when I was doing some research about Croatia, I learned that they're big drinkers in Croatia. People like to drink alcohol, and in Belgium too. So what?
Yeah. That was there
How would
was
you compare the
no.
drinking cultures?
Well, I think that Belgians drink better drinks. That's
I,
the only difference. The better, like the beers here are famously better. And then again, like this port of Europe, you get much more better and cheaper wines in Belgium than in Croatia. So we
okay.
drink as much, but we mostly drink shit.
Well, I remember I was a teenager and you gave me a shot of I think
Slivovica.
yeah. Oh, that was
Yeah,
rough.
it's a national treasure. That is our national treasure,
It's
indeed.
strong.
Yeah. Indeed, that is like yeah. Uh, Always with weddings and funerals and getting up and going to sleep.
Getting up soon.
National medicine. Yeah, a lot of people swear into like I'm 90 years old and I've never been to doctor because every morning I take a shot of this
Oh, that's
medicine
so
that burns
funny.
down all the germs. I
The
didn't have
terms
any problems with my inburgering, it meaning like my
initiation.
initiation into Belgian society on the
Yeah.
basis of party culture.
Nice.
No, not at all.
Now, just to connect to that, because we're almost finished this final episode here. I just want to know which parts of you feel Croatian and which parts of you feel Belgium now. Because I know whenever you're learning a new language, and I bring this up on every episode, often people who speak multiple languages, they form a different identity or they form a different part of themselves when they speak a different language. Is that true for you? Or
Um, I I would say no, but
okay.
people around me say yes.
Okay, but no. If you say no, I'd be interested in hearing that because most people say yes, and I'd want to know why it's no.
No, because I didn't feel any different. I mean, I'm the same towards Belgians and towards Croatian. I feel like I'm the same all the time, but yeah, then again, like my kids always laugh at me when I start talking Croatian on the phone or something like that. Like, Daddy, you sound differently. You're apparently my voice lowers. I speak more like confident and from a bass. I don't know, like, "Ugh."
Ah, okay.
And yeah, so it is different, and I guess I'm more relaxed. I am more relaxed to make jokes and more. I can use the fineness of the language more efficiently. That is true. But at the
Yeah.
same time, my Croatian did change apparently as well, because the melody of Belgian language of the Dutch sneaked into Croatian. Now it's like a bit different.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does change again. But I still swear in Croatian, and when it gets to football, I cannot switch that easily. My Croatian heart is still my Croatian heart, and yeah, that is again like I cannot experience it the same way. I mean, yesterday was Belgium against Croatia. My kids were like half half of the time cheering for Croats, half of the time for Belgians, but I was really like yelling every time we got a chance. I've never supported so fanatically for Belgium.
Oh,
sorry.
But fanatically for Belgium?
No, I've said I've never
Fanatically.
I've never
Croatia,
supported so fanatically for Belgium as I do for Croatia.
Okay, okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, I can see that you have the
Comes from the
Croatian shirt on
deepness
right
of
now.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that's it more or less.
All right. Well, Silvio, is there anything else you want to share with everyone listening today?
If you're listening today and support Croatia in the next round of the football.
Silvio, this episode's gonna come out in a month or something like that. So
okay.
If you're listening right now, you might be laughing.
Okay. In a month from now, I hope Croatia reached the finals again and did better than last time when we got second, but you never know.
So if you're listening to this conversation in a month from now and you have any comments about football, please comment. Either
I hope my words were had a prophetic
impact
value about it.
Well, again, please comment here on any listening device. Spotify allows for comments. And again, please join the Without Borders community at withoutborders.fyi. I share a bunch of interesting articles there about cultural psychology and also some written stories. And I'm really trying to get a community going because if you're anything like me, you might feel kind of lost and torn between countries. I don't really know where I belong. And I'm trying to create this borderless online community, and that's why it's Without Borders. So if you feel like you want to be a part of that, please go to withoutborders.fyi. And Silvio, thanks again for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
It was wonderful talking to you.